What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of Toe Tap Talks. I'm here with my co-host.
How's it going, everyone? It's Drew. We're back.
Last week, we were talking about what teams were going to take the biggest hit, what team made the biggest impact with free agency. And now, after the draft is done, we're going to discuss the amount of people that are going to make an immediate impact for fantasy teams. Obviously, me and Drew, we're huge on doing fantasy football, and we know a lot of you guys out there are. So we're going to get right into it.
All right. So, as we know, people, fantasy is all about how much people can score the ball, as well as how much they can move the chains. So, it's not necessarily about who's the best player. It's all about position, grouping, opportunities, and how good that team or offense is as well, too. So, there's a variety of factors that we use to kind of group all of these players together. Obviously, all opinions at the end of the day, but we want to win fantasy championships. So that's always the goal at the end of the day. So, with that being said, the first guy I'm going to talk about here is none other than Jadarian Price, the running back from Notre Dame. Seahawks took him at the end of the first round with the 32nd pick of the NFL draft. Seahawks are obviously coming off of a Super Bowl run where their offense was one of the best in the NFL, moved the chains at a very, very efficient level. They also had one of the best defenses in the league, so they commonly were put in really good opportunities with short fields to score the ball and move the chains. Obviously, the elephant in the room here that we got to address, and that we did address last week, is they lost Kenneth Walker. So they lost Kenneth Walker, and they also have Charbonnet, who went down with a ACL tear in the playoffs. So he's going
Super Bowl MVP, by the way.
Right, Kenneth Walker.
Super Bowl MVP, by the way.
So they're undoubtedly going to have a pretty shallow running back room going into start this year, which was one of me and John's biggest complaints with their team, is they didn't really address that in free agency at all. So they attacked it. They attacked it in the first round of the NFL draft. Price is a pretty talented back. Obviously, really small sample size because he was running behind the best running back in the country in Jeremiah Love over at Notre Dame.
Probably one of the best talents within the draft in general.
100%. Yeah, pound for pound, really great player. I'm sure we'll get into it later on how I feel about that. But Jadarian Price, back-to-back 110 carry seasons, totaled, I think, a little over 1,400 yards in the last 2 years and 18 rushing touchdowns. The guy's explosive. He's 5'11", 203, so a little bit of a smaller frame for what you'd like to see out of like a power back. And he only ran, I think, a 4.49 40. So not bad, but not like that blazing burner speed you'd expect from that second level clearing for a running back. He shows a lot of physicality the way he runs, really good patience and acceleration from what at least I saw with him over at Notre Dame. His contact balance and leg drive seemed to be really, really good. And I think it was like 4 yards after contact per attempt. So that's going to translate pretty well to the NFL, especially in goal-to-go situations. He's going to have a whole lot of opportunities with them inside the 5. Charbonnet had well over 10 rushing touchdowns last year because of those goal-to-go situations.
He's a hard runner. He's definitely a hard runner.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing to take away, though, is that it's really limited sample size with him over in Notre Dame. So hard to tell how much that's going to translate. But the name of the game in fantasy football is opportunity. And with JSN still being a top tier talent in the NFL, and you've got Shaheed over there as well, too. And Darnold really showed that he could sling the rock and move the ball efficiently. So they're going to have a whole lot of scoring opportunities. And fantasy football, you want to attach yourself to pieces in a good offense because that's how a lot of fantasy points are scored.
Yeah, and I think, he's been doubling up even when Sharp comes back. He's been doubling up as a 2, like his whole career. Obviously, at Notre Dame with Jeremiah Love, so like he's not going to be new to it. As the Seahawks have shown, they like to split their running backs. He's going to get reps, right? He's going to get reps. Yep. At the end of the day, he's going to get reps, and he's going to get more than enough opportunity for touchdowns. Which obviously, fantasy is the name of the game for touchdowns. So
that's all it is, man. So yeah,
he's got
fit there. I think with Jadarian Price, it's more about the fit than the talent, in my opinion. I think he's a talented back, but I think his opportunity is just way too good to ignore.
He's a good talent, but he ain't Jeremiah Love. He ain't Jeremiah Love. He's not Jeremiah Love. But that's something we're going to talk about. That's what I'm going to go into now. One of my picks is obviously Jeremiah Love. He's easily one of the best offensive talents in the draft. The only thing that I'm iffy about is I don't know why the Cardinals picked him. It felt like a waste of a pick. They have a crowded running back room now that they have James Conner. They have Tyler Algier that they just got in free agency, and they got Trey Benson. So, but like you can't deny that Jeremiah Love's talent. In one season he had he literally had Price's yards in one season, and he had 7 yards per carry, 18 touchdowns, and he also even had 280 receiving yards and 3 tubs.
Yeah.
So he's versatile. He can be a receiving back, and he can be a running back. I think every team now, everyone's trying to find a CMC.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to find a CMC. They want a versatile running back, and Jeremiah Love is that versatile running back. I think he's going to make immediate impact. Like,
Yeah. 100%.
James Conner has not played a healthy season in what, like 3 years?
2 years ago, he actually played, I think, 16 or 7. I think he played 16.
Well, hey, I may have been wrong about that.
Majority of his career, though, he struggled to stay healthy.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're not going to use him as a main back, they will use him as either a receiving back, a third down back. I think it just all depends on how training camp goes and how he pairs with James Conner. I mean, even James Conner said he's excited for Jeremiah Love to come, but Jeremiah Love's going to have an impact on fantasy. I don't see him being a first-round pick. I wouldn't waste a first-round pick on Jeremiah Love.
Yeah. So I'm a diehard Cardinal fan. I love the player in Jeremiah Love. I don't necessarily love the landing spot here. We have a middle-of-the-road offensive line, so we're not an elite offensive line by any stretch of the means. We also, like, the one position group we weren't really struggling at is like our skill positions. Like our running backs, we had James Conner, Trey Benson, and we just signed Tyler Algier, who is going to get run. We gave him $12 million. So he's going to get run. I don't really love the opportunity. I mean, to me, it feels like Bijan Robinson all over again. Like he's just going to get vultured inside the 5 a whole bunch. I think he will be the 1A over there, but they're going to use all of these backs in rotation. Trey Benson will probably end up getting traded.
Which is going to be crazy. I don't think I've really seen a team rotate between 4 running backs.
Well, they won't.
But we'll see.
Benson will get probably traded here in the near future. I think he's in a contract until the end of 2027. So I would imagine he gets traded. But even if he doesn't somehow, there's a whole lot of backs right over there. So
1-year contract with James Conner. You guys only have him through 2026. It didn't make sense, but I don't know. In my mind, you don't draft a running back with the 3rd pick without planning to utilize him throughout the season. So, like, Jeremiah Love can be utilized.
He's going to be utilized. He's got home run speed. He can kind of do it all. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. Really patient runner. Really explosive runner. He's also shown a whole lot of physicality. He's not one to shy away from tackle. The biggest thing for me is just how often is he going to get vultured on those goal-to-go situations. So like you mentioned, I don't think he's a first-round fantasy pick. I definitely wouldn't use a first-round fantasy pick on him, but he's going to produce for sure. They, like you said, they don't use a number 3 pick and pay the guy $50 million guaranteed to not use him. So he's going to get reps.
Yeah. For those of y'all who play Dynasty, though,
Jeremiah
Love is going to be great for a Dynasty pick.
Yeah, he's going to be the truth.
He's going to be great for a Dynasty.
I'm a little butthurt because I did want David Bailey or Ruben Bain, trade down and get Bain. Even Arvell Reese would have been cool. The positional value didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But we're getting on to another topic here, so we'll move the fuck on. Michael Bidwell, sell the fucking team.
Arvell Reese, bro. I can't even believe you dropped that far.
Yeah, I can't either.
Go blue. Go blue.
So, the next player that we're going to be talking about that I think is going to have a whole lot of fantasy impact is going to be none other than Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State University. The Saints took him with the 8th pick in the NFL draft. He's going to be lining up across from Chris Olave, who is one of the better receivers in the NFL when he stays healthy. So he's going to get a whole lot of one-on-one opportunities. He's a pretty well-sized receiver, 6'2", 203, checks a whole lot of the boxes you're looking for, right? 4'4", 940 is a little bit like on the slower end than I thought he would have been running. But the dude's explosive. He's got like a 39-inch vertical or something like that. So he can move. I'm not worried about that. We're going to pull up. We love Matt Harmon over here. So we're going to pull up some of Matt Harmon's reception perception profile tree here.
Shout out.
Jordan Tyson can do a whole lot of fun stuff. So Jordan Tyson runs a dig at a 78% clip, posted a 73, and out route at an 85% clip, which is blistering. And then come back at 100%. That's pretty low volume. I'm pretty sure he ran that route. He didn't run it a whole lot. The biggest thing that I took away from Jordan Tyson here, the dude can really find a soft spot in the zone. So he charts first. He charts in the 89th percentile versus zone. So he wins in the zone on an 85% clip, which is like unheard of. Like that's absurdly good. So the dude has a really good natural feel for a zone. He does struggle a little bit versus man, like 67% success rate versus man. However, that's something that can be improved on when you get to the level, when you get to the NFL level. Guys like Jalen Waddle weren't incredible man or press beaters when they got to the NFL, and they all developed into, competent or great receivers and beating man coverage. But that 89th percentile versus zone is something that kind of stuck out to me. And in an offense that Shough clearly proved he can kind of sling the rock. Through 10 games, Tyler Shough threw for 2,300 yards, almost 2,300 yards. He threw for 10 touchdowns, and this was all over just a 10-game stretch that he played. He threw the ball a whole lot. He's not afraid to throw it into tight windows. So I like the pairing there, especially their offense did overall get better. Travis Etienne, or Travis Etienne, however you want to pronounce his name, Olave, they've got a whole lot, in theory, more red zone opportunities now because their offense should be moving the ball more down the field more efficiently.
Yeah.
Clear separator. He's going to be able to win a whole lot of reps, and I think he'll make an impact for fantasy teams for sure.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, Tyler Shough could ball, bro. Watching him coming into a Saints program that, they were kind of in the dumps, and seeing him be able to like sling the ball and actually look like a superstar when people didn't have him really high. That you can't ask for anything more. And like now he has Chris Olave, Jordan Tyson, Travis Etienne just came in. He still has Alvin Kamara. There's more than enough weapons that they're going to be able to utilize. And I think Tyson being the number 2, there's no other person ahead of him besides Olave. He's going to be able to make an immediate impact.
Yeah.
I agree. Quarterbacks love to look at 2 targets. And I'd be surprised if Tyson doesn't make an impact.
One really thing to note too about Jordan Tyson is the Saints still don't expect to be like a good ball club by any means next year, which in fantasy sometimes can work a lot of the times in your favor because a lot of the times those teams are playing from behind. They're in what we call negative game script. So they're throwing the ball a lot. They're not ground and pounding when they're down 2 touchdowns. They're throwing the ball. So he's going to get a whole lot of what we like to call garbage time points. Those 4 yards for 50, those 4 catches for 50 yards in the fourth quarter make a huge difference on Sunday when you're down and you need something in your flex, especially.
All right, for the next play that I want to discuss is I want to talk about none other than the demon himself, Makai Lemon. He's an absolute demon. I mean, the way he came out during the draft, he looked like he wants some blood. He wants some blood next year. And let's just say all of this is pending A.J. Brown getting traded. Yeah. If A.J. Brown doesn't get traded, this isn't going to mean much. Right. But if A.J. Brown does get traded, this is going to be huge. I mean, Makai Lemon, though, he's kind of he's a little bit on the shorter side. He's only 5'11", but 2008 receiving yards in his career, 14 touchdowns. He only played 3 seasons at USC. But last year, out of these 2,000 yards, last year he had 79 receptions for 1,100 yards and 11 tubs. So he literally just balled out in his 3rd season and got almost all of his stats in his 3rd season. He normally lines up as a slot receiver 75.6% of the time. He likes to run shorter routes, which is perfect for Jalen Hurts. A little short route merchant, but he also had a 22% target rate behind the line of scrimmage, 39% between 0 and 9 yards. He had 16 catches last year that were more than 20 yards, which was actually like the 3rd highest ranked in FBS. And if you just want to pull up his route tree, as we're going to take a look, he definitely has one of, if not the most impressive route tree out of almost all the rookies. Like he has a slant rate of 81.4%. He has a curl of 85.4. Dig is 75 out of almost 89. Post almost 78, which is pretty impressive too. He's going to make an impact. He's going to be an absolute demon. I mean, he's going to an offense that has a passive run rate of like 64%. So like contrary to what has been said from A.J. Brown, but saying he doesn't get the ball. The Eagles last year threw the ball 64% of the time.
Yeah, part of that was their offensive line just wasn't what it was the year before. And
Saquon couldn't get a start last year either. He obviously could not replicate almost breaking Dickerson's record, which is like, how do you replicate a season like that? It's hard to replicate a season like that. But yeah, Makai Lemon lining up next to Devontae Smith. If they use him as they used him in college, He's going to get a lot of shorter routes. And then if you're in a PPR league, that's a lot of quick receptions. Being able to catch these quick routes, get a few yards. Even in red zone, it's going to be huge because they just have him run an out route. As we said, like the out route's at 88.9%. Like that's huge. He creates a lot of space. Great route runner. Going to be able to get the points. Going to be able to get the receptions, and he's going to score a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more. I think the one thing to note is that curl route he is absolutely blistering on. He runs that 17% of the time, and he wins at an 85% clip. So that is by far his bread and butter. What really impressed me with Makai Lemon is, I'm sure you'll want to touch on a little bit, but he's really polished, man. He creates a whole lot of separation, whether it be versus man, versus zone. The dude just happens to get open a lot. And some contested catches. It just seems like he comes down with a lot of them. So, like a lot from what I saw out of Makai Lemon, I think the big thing for me, especially fantasy purposes, is we're really banking on that AJ trade. Because if AJ doesn't go, then, which in my opinion, I think he's already in New England, but if in the event he doesn't somehow go anywhere, then Lemon has a whole lot of target competition between Devontae Smith. They have Dontavian Wicks as well too. They traded for, there was one other guy they traded for. Anyway, a lot of target competition if AJ Brown doesn't go, especially for an offense that the quarterback can't necessarily make down the field throws.
Yeah. And they also got Goddard, and they just brought in Eli Stowers from the draft as well. So
right.
There is a lot of target competition in Philly, but there is no doubt in my mind that with Makai Lemon's skill, he will not make an impact, not only on the field, but for fantasy managers as well. And I think he'll strive in PPR leagues compared to non-PPR leagues.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think in standard formats, if you still play those, they're just kind of barbaric. Go play in a PPR league. Standard leagues, I wouldn't want much part of it, but PPR leagues, give me all of it. Half PPR, yeah, still kind of want pieces of them, but deeper leagues.
Yeah. Again, Makai Lemon, like we said before, like with Jeremiah Love, I don't think he's going to be a first round pick. He's going to be a middle round pick, middle to low.
Yeah, I think he'll outperform his ADP for sure. All right, this is another guy out of Ohio State that I want to talk about here. Wide receiver U, by the way. Carnell Tate. We talked a lot about the Titans in free agency, about how impressed we were with how much they built up their team in free agency. But that big gaping hole was, it was cool they got Wan'Dale, but it wasn't a true field stretcher. You know, he was their over the middle guy. He could create on drag, slants, and kind of over the middle for a safety blanket. However, Cam Ward needed a dominant X or flanker receiver, and that's exactly what Carnell Tate can be. I know that there's a whole lot of discussions. Well, he's never been a number one on his team. You know, he always split the field. Dude, Carnell Tate can straight out ball, man. That dude is a big body, 6'3", a little smaller for his size, but 195 pounds, runs a 4.5 40, so can fly for his size as well, too. And in the last 2 years, he's had 1,600 yards and 13 touchdowns, which doesn't pop off the page, but he's a true consistent wide receiver that wins dominantly at that X position. And I'll pull up his tree here for everyone to see. So we're going to chart his reception perception profile here through Matt Harmon, which we've proved to love over here. Credit to him. Go check out his stuff. Really cool stuff over there. Anyway, Carnell Tate runs downfield routes excellently. Like, he's not a huge slant guy over the middle, as you can tell here, but that 9 route, that post route, that corner route, even a dig, if you're running a dig, oh my god, the dude, he just wins. Like, he's consistent.
He's a dog. He's a dog.
So he ran the curl at his highest clip, which seems to be kind of a trend with a lot of these college guys, but he runs it close to 30% of the time. He was running that curl. So he does have more static route trees that he had over at Ohio State. So I'll be curious to see how Daboll uses him a little bit more creatively, or if he keeps him more of that stagnant, like curl post 9 route kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But the guy, really good, 77% success rate versus man, which is good for the 89th percentile. That's dominant. That's going to be a huge factor for Cam Ward, who can absolutely sling the ball downfield. And if you have a guy winning that consistently that far downfield, it is going to translate, and that's going to equal downfield plays, which are big fantasy points, as well as touchdowns, which we'd love to see as well too. Again, you're attached to a bad team, so I know that's kind of the opposite in fantasy. You want to attach yourself to good teams, But kind of like we talked about with a couple other guys, negative game script. These guys are going to be losing a lot. Like, they're not expected to be good. So if they're losing a lot, you're going to get more opportunities for Cam Ward to sling that thing down the field. And Carnell Tate will hopefully have a chance to come down with it a couple times a game.
Yeah, I mean, like, just being in Tennessee, and, you know, they brought in Wan'Dale Robinson, who is, I know, coming from the Giants, I mean, in my opinion, he's borderline wide receiver 1. He's more so low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. Carnell Tate can fit right in. Like, he's going to be able to be the peanut butter and jelly with Wan'Dale Robinson. They're both going to be able to get open. And Cam Ward, he needed weapons.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that Tate's going to be a little bit better in like a half PPR league than a full PPR league. Just because I don't think he's going to be a guy like Wan'Dale, where he's going to get those kind of like cherry picked ones where they're screwing in his design plays.
Yeah.
Carnell Tate in college lined up outside at either the X or the flanker 85% of the time. So he's going to be an outside guy, which, like you mentioned, is going to be a perfect fit for Wan'Dale, because Wan'Dale likes to be kind of that Z motion receiver that can fly around the field. So I think it's going to be a really good fit. I think on paper it looks great, and in theory they're going to be losing a lot of games and might not have a whole lot of touchdowns, but should have a whole bunch of yards and opportunities to at least rack up some fantasy points.
Absolutely. We're going to start talking about a guy that me and Drew actually have. In my opinion, he's one of the most talented receivers in the draft, and that talent's KC Concepcion. Man, coming from A&M, Concepcion, he normally, when he was at A&M, he would normally run deeper routes. He would average 12.3 yards of depth per target, which was the 6th highest in the nation. And I mean, but his 2.46 yards per route run ranked like 11th. So he's up there. He's up there in ranks with route running. Yeah. So we're gonna take a look at his route tree, and I'm gonna have Drew talk a little more about it.
Yeah, man. KC is blistering. This dude, as a pure route runner and creating separation, probably top of the class. I mean, he's right up there with those blue chip prospects. And why he was a round 1 talent. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why he was looked at as a round 1 talent. The guy wins man coverage 78% of the time, which is the 92nd percentile. He wins zone at 83% of the time.
Insane.
Percentile. He wins press at 77% of the time, 87th percentile. This dude, he gets open. He runs that dig route extremely well. He runs that 9 extremely well, post really well, and he still can run those quick short routes really, really well, because the dude's fast as shit. The dude can fly. All right, he's got burners. He can move, and he proved that over at A&M. The cons to KC, and I think why me and John are a little bit more hesitant, is there are some very, very gaping holes in not only his profile, but also where he landed. So the first one, I'll talk about his profile. The dude has a 7% drop rate, which isn't like crazy alarming, but it's enough for me to be a little worried about his hands.
For receivers, that's
right. And a lot of those drops, they aren't like just like focus issues. A lot of them are he's clapping down on the ball. His technique just doesn't look the best. So that's obviously stuff that can get cleaned up at the next level. The biggest glaring issue I'm sure you can get into.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's on the Browns.
He's
like
Cleveland Browns, man.
He's on the Browns. Last year, the Browns had one of the worst offensive passing seasons. They finished 31st in passing yards per game, 165 passing yards per game, and they were last. I repeat, they were last in passer rating, having Dillon Gabriel, having Shedeur Sanders. They had a 67.4% passer rating. The quarterback position is just a gaping hole right now for the Browns. They have Shedeur Sanders, who did not play well last year. I'm telling you right now, Drew, Shedeur Sanders, do not sugarcoat it. People say, oh, yeah, his position, he wasn't playing with starters, yada, yada, yada. He played enough games, and he still only showed promise in like one game.
Hey, Pro Bowler, man.
It's a popularity contest. Be so for real. Dillon Gabriel had a higher passer rating than Shedeur Sanders, but people wanted to talk on Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel threw less interceptions than Shedeur Sanders, but people want to talk bad on Dillon Gabriel. But you have Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, and now you're bringing in the mix of Deshaun Watson, who's healthy.
Yeah, man. It's murky who's going to even be throwing him the ball next year. There was rumors of Watson potentially being in the running for the QB competition. You still have Sanders. You still have Gabriel. I think Gabriel is going to be that third man out. I don't think he'll be in the competition.
No, I don't think he will. And then obviously there's issues with KC. Jerry Jeudy didn't look that great last year, but Jerry Jeudy is still there, and he still is a target option. And they also have Harold Fannin, who
I love Fannin.
fumbled out last year. He led Cleveland with 731 receiving yards, and he had 6 touchdowns. He looked like their number one target last year. Yeah, so like KC, he's in a good spot to be able to overshine Jerry Jeudy and be the number one.
By week 1, he will be the number one target for their receiving group. I think his biggest competition for receiving targets is going to be Harold Fannin. But like we said, the biggest thing is just Murky Hughes going to be over there playing QB, because that is QB purgatory over there in Cleveland. But to wrap it up, KC is probably lightning in a bottle. He's going to have explosive plays. I really like the guy as a talent. He had over 900 yards and 9 touchdowns last year for A&M. So he's going to be a hell of a player. Hopefully they can figure out a way to get him the ball efficiently, and I think he'll make plays. A lot of negative game script. Issue is they do like to run the ball. So we'll see how that pans out. All right, this next guy that I'm going to be talking about here, purely about fit and what I think he could do given the opportunities and how many vacated targets there are on this team. Guy I'm talking about here is Antonio Williams, wide receiver out of Clemson that got drafted in the 3rd round over to the Washington Commanders. Again, a team that we talked about a little bit in our last video about how they were missing that wide receiver piece. They have Terry McLaurin, who's getting up there in age. Deebo Samuel's no longer with the team. There's a whole lot of vacated targets there. Ertz is coming off a big injury. They did get Okonkwo, so that's going to help with some of that. But this is a good offense. Jaden Daniels is a hell of a quarterback. Their running back room isn't the strongest, so they're going to want to sling the ball. They're going to want to lean on Jaden Daniels to move the ball, and I think Antonio Williams probably has the best fit and opportunity, kind of like we were talking about Jadarian Price with the Seahawks. He's just going to be in a whole bunch of good opportunities because, in theory, they're a really good offense, and he's attached to a good offense with a really good quarterback, and there's a whole lot of vacated targets to that team. We're going to pull up Antonio Williams' route tree here. It's cool. Nothing special, like I had mentioned, but he coming off of over the last 2 seasons at Clemson, 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns, which is solid over the last 2 years. He's a 5'11", 190 route runner, so he's going to play that Z motion receiver more times than not. He's going to be moved around the offense, hopefully in a creative fashion. Seems to win on a lot of in-breaking routes. Doesn't run vertical routes the best in terms of the 9 route, and some out routes as well too, but 74 isn't bad. What you do like to see out of Antonio Williams, or like the building block that I think is going to make him successful, is he's really good versus man. So he's a 73% success rate versus man, which is about 75th percentile.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm definitely not too excited to see him twice a year. I think Williams' route running is pretty polished from what we saw at Clemson. He's good at making separation. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be a consideration for fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be that slot receiver like we talked about. So those curl routes, those slant routes, those digs are kind of what he's going to run a lot. And I'm more betting on the talent with Jaden Daniels that he's going to be able to get the guy the ball rather than how much I believe in Williams as a prospect. I think he's fine. He's a little bit older. He spent 4 years at Clemson, so a little bit of an older guy. I think he's more pro-ready than some of these guys that we've been talking about. So he should be able to come in and make an impact pretty quickly.
Yeah. All right. So the last guy that I want to talk about, he may not look too pretty, but I'm trying not to be biased, but I like his fit more than I do anything else. That's Malachi Fields. Between the 3 seasons he played in college, between Virginia and Notre Dame, he had 165 receptions, almost 2,500 yards. He averaged 15 yards per reception, and he had 16 touchdowns. He's kind of on the bigger end of wide receivers. He's 6'4", 218 pounds. I mean, he ran a 4.61 40 time, so he's not slow, but he's not insanely fast either. My biggest thing with him is he gets most of his receptions and his breakouts on comebacks and curls. Like I said, his curls, it's 80.7%, and the tree doesn't look as pretty as, some of these other receivers. And I think he with his situation, he's paired up with Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart, I think last year he proved that he can be that quarterback to be able to get the ball to his receivers. Like, he can sling the ball down the field. Jackson Dart literally played a season without even a wide receiver one. And he's filling in the loss of Wan'Dale Robinson, who was the 2. So now we're going to have Malik Neighbors, Malachi Fields. I'd be surprised if Darius Slayton, who dropped 80% of his catches, I'm throwing a number out there, but it seemed like it. Malachi Fields is going to match up well
on him for sure. I think he's going to get opportunity because he's kind of a vertical tight coverage X receiver. I think he's going to play outside the numbers almost exclusively for you guys. And
Mhm.
part of that is because you can move Malik anywhere throughout the offense, like you said.
Anywhere, literally anywhere.
They'll use him as kind of like that down the field, like vertical threat field stretcher kind of receiver. Yeah, I think he's going to be more of like those like really, really deep formats. Like if you're in a 14 team or maybe even a 16 team league, that's probably where you're going to be targeting a guy like this late.
Yeah.
Or even like any best ball mania nerds out there. Like this is a guy you could take a couple flyers on in the end of a best ball tournament. And if he happens to perform in a best ball format, great. You know, you stole some points for the week.
I don't see him getting drafted in 10-man leagues.
So I think we've both gone over our 5, if I'm not mistaken here. Some dynasty polls here or best ball polls here if you're really interested. I've got 2 guys here that I'm going to quickly spew off here. Chris Bell got drafted to the Miami Dolphins from Louisville. He's coming off a torn ACL, so I'm a little bit hesitant about him, but 6'2", 220, 917 yards, and 6 touchdowns in his last healthy season. When he does come back, I really like this guy. I think there's a whole lot of vacated targets over there in Miami, so I think there's a good opportunity for him to make some noise. I also like Caleb Douglas, another receiver drafted the Dolphins out of Texas Tech. Kind of similar thing, 6'4", 210 receiver. I just like attaching myself in a dynasty aspect to a team that's rebuilding and they need vacated targets. Not necessarily current fantasy impact, but future down the line. I like those 2 guys.
So I'm going to talk about 2 guys that I think are really good prospects. They'd make a great impact in fantasy if it wasn't for their situation. First, we got Zachariah Branch. Bro is quick. He ran like a 4.3 40 time, if I'm not mistaken, 5'10", 180. It's my only thing about him is the Falcons situation is just not great. You got Tua, who doesn't even know what team he got put on. Penix, who just doesn't seem like he wants to play when he's in. And he had to sit behind Kirk Cousins, but like when it was his time to play, like he didn't do much. It's the same thing with KC. They have to choose who to pick with their QB, and I'm not sure how their QB situation is going to go. I mean, he's behind Drake London. I think Zach Branch has a way to make a good impact. The next guy I want to talk about is like Jeremy Bernard. Got drafted to the Steelers. He's in a room with DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman. They still don't know how their QB room is going. I mean, they said Rodgers visited with the Steelers, but like, how did Rodgers play last year? It's not a good fit for him. In dynasty leagues, these are 2 guys I would pick.
Absolutely. Obviously, we're talking about rookies here. Rookies are always a little bit hard to gauge when it comes to fantasy impact. So really interested to see how some of these end up turning out. We'll see. We didn't talk about a whole lot of running backs. Sometimes running backs end up breaking out in fantasy due to injuries and whatnot. So I'm sure there'll be some that we flew by. But excited to see how these guys... Yeah, there you go. Excited to see how some of these guys pan out. I'm sure we'll be back with some more fantasy content here in the future. But till next time, we appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll catch y'all soon.